4 cardboard boxes, sealed, labeled, ready to ship. Inside, not $2,000 of premium embroidered apparel, dirty diapers, used cat litter, my neighbor's garbage, and a healthy helping of shop trash, just for good measure. Somewhere in Kenya, a scammer was about to open the merchandise of a lifetime, and I would have paid good money to see his face when he did dot. If you've ever been targeted by a scammer, someone who thought you were an easy mark, someone who tried to use your own honest business against you, you're gonna love this one. This is a story about a small business owner who got played and then flipped the script in the most disgusting, satisfying way possible. Hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, and let's get into it. Running a small business is a balancing act. You're the owner, the accountant, the customer service rep, and the guy fixing the embroidery machine at 11 p.m. when a thread jams on a rush order. Every phone call matters. Every order matters. You don't get to be picky about who you do business with, not when rent is due and payroll doesn't pay itself. That's the mindset our protagonist, we'll call him Mike, had built his commercial embroidery shop around. Years of grinding. Years of building relationships with local businesses, sports teams, corporate clients who needed polos stitched with logos, hats decorated for company picnics, jackets embroidered for the guys down at the fire station. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest, and it was his. So when the phone rang on an otherwise unremarkable afternoon, Mike answered it the way he always did. Friendly, professional, ready to make a sale. The voice on the other end was calm, confident, a little too smooth if Mike had been paying closer attention. The man introduced himself, said he needed a bulk order, a specific name-brand line of garments that Mike's shop sourced through a wholesale supplier. Nothing unusual there. Then came the number, $2,000. Mike's pulse ticked up half a beat. $2,000 was a solid order, the kind of order that made a Tuesday feel like a good day. But then came the detail that should have been the first crack in the foundation. Don't decorate them. Just the blank garments. No logos, no stitching, just ship them as is. Mike paused. In his world, that was like a bakery getting an order for flour and eggs. No cake, please, just the raw ingredients. Nobody orders blank embroidery-ready apparel from an embroidery shop unless they're planning to decorate it somewhere else. It was strange. It didn't sit right. But business is business, and the man on the phone had an answer for everything. Smooth, reassuring. I'll have payment to you by tomorrow. No problem at all. The first red flag waves and gets ignored. The next day, like clockwork, a FedEx envelope arrived. Overnight shipping. The kind you pay extra for when you want something to feel urgent, official, legitimate. Inside was a business check. Real letterhead. Real account number. Real signature. Made out directly to Mike's company for the full amount. Here's the thing about scams that actually work. They don't feel like scams in the moment. They feel like relief. Mike remembers the small, warm flicker of validation. See, it's fine. The guy's legit. This is just a normal order. The exact feeling a con artist is counting on you to have. But Mike hadn't survived years in business by being careless. Something about the whole exchange, the odd request, the rushed shipping, the too eager tone on the phone kept nagging at him. So before he processed anything, he did what any careful business owner should do. He picked up the phone and called the company the check was drawn from. He got through to their CFO. There's a specific kind of silence that happens on a phone call when you realize you're about to hear something you don't want to hear. Mike sat with the receiver against his ear, listening to the CFO's tone shift from polite to concerned to alarmed. The account number was real. The company was real. The check was not authorized. It wasn't theirs. Mike's stomach dropped, then hardened into something colder, something focused. He hadn't lost any money yet, but he'd been chosen, targeted. Some stranger, hundreds, maybe thousands, of miles away, had looked at his small embroidery business and decided it was an easy score. A name on a list. A mark. And that stirred something in Mike that had nothing to do with the $2,000. It was personal now. The scammer gets comfortable. The scammer, of course, had no idea his cover was blown. A day later, an email landed in Mike's inbox, casual as anything. Did you get the check? Great. I'll have a courier pick up the boxes tomorrow. Mike read it twice, then a third time. There was something almost insulting about the confidence in those words. The assumption that Mike was just another easy mark who'd quietly ship out $2,000 of merchandise on the promise of a check that didn't exist. He thought about all the honest customers he'd built his business on. The Little League coach who paid in crumpled 20s for jersey numbers. The volunteer fire department that scraped together a budget every year for new patches. People who worked hard for their money and respected what Mike did for a living. And here was this guy, hiding behind a screen somewhere, trying to walk away with merchandise Mike had spent years building the credibility to sell. Mike felt the heat rise in his chest. Not the kind of anger that makes you slam a phone down. The colder kind. The kind that makes you calm, deliberate, creative. He didn't get mad. He got even. The turning point. Mike didn't sleep much that night. Not out of fear, out of anticipation. His mind kept circling the same question. If this guy wants boxes, I'm going to give him boxes. He wasn't going to call the police over a check that never cleared and a scam that hadn't technically cost him a cent. Not yet, anyway. This wasn't a case for a report number and a shrug. This called for something with a little more poetic justice. By morning, Mike had a plan. A simple one. Beautifully, disgustingly simple. The revenge planning and execution. He started at home. Anyone who's ever changed a diaper knows there's a specific, unmistakable smell that clings to the air the second the bag seals. Mike bagged up a healthy supply. Not one or two, a collection. The dirtiest, ripest ones he could find. Then came the cat litter. Used. Clumped. The kind you hold at arm's length on trash day and still feel like you need a shower afterward. He wasn't done. Mike walked down the street with an empty box under one arm and, with a neighborly smile that gave away absolutely nothing, helped himself to a generous donation from his neighbor's curbside garbage. Old food containers. Something unidentifiable and faintly damp. He didn't ask questions. He just packed. Back at the shop, he raided the trash cans there too. Scraps of fabric, packing waste, the general debris of a working embroidery floor, and layered it in for good measure. 4 boxes. Sealed tight with packing tape, stacked neatly, labeled exactly the way a legitimate shipment would be. From the outside, they looked like $2,000 of premium apparel, ready to ship. From the inside, they were a biohazard with a bow on top. Mike remembers standing in his shop that morning, arms crossed, staring at the boxes with something between a grin and a grimace. There's a particular kind of satisfaction in doing something a little unhinged for a very good reason. He wasn't proud of the smell filling his back room, but he was absolutely, unshakably proud of the plan. The pickup. Right on schedule, a FedEx truck rolled up outside the shop. Mike's heart thudded as the driver stepped out. This was the moment it could all fall apart. If the driver asked to open a box, if something seemed off, if the whole plan collapsed before it even started, he kept his voice steady, professional. "Can I see the pickup details?" he asked, playing the part of the diligent shipper to the end. The driver pulled up a tracking number. Everything checked out, on paper, at least. Standard pickup, standard label, standard boxes. The driver loaded all 4 into the truck. Mike stood on the sidewalk and watched the truck pull away, carrying his very special shipment toward its unsuspecting recipient. He didn't feel guilty. He didn't feel nervous. He felt like he'd just mailed a little bit of justice. The next day, curiosity got the better of him. Mike pulled up the tracking number and watched the little status updates roll in. Picked up. In transit. International processing. Then, the final update. The package had been shipped. Overnight, express. All the way to Kenya. Mike sat back in his chair and let out a laugh. The kind that comes from somewhere deep and a little disbelieving. Someone, somewhere, had paid an absolute fortune in international overnight shipping charges for 4 boxes of garbage. And knowing how these operations usually work, it almost certainly wasn't the scammer's own money. It was very likely charged to some other victim's stolen credit card. Whoever opened those boxes on the other end was in for one of the worst surprises of their criminal career. Picture it. Eager hands slicing through the packing tape, expecting to find rows of clean, brand name apparel ready to resell, and instead being hit with the unmistakable stench of dirty diapers and used cat litter right in the face. Mike never heard another word from the scammer. No angry email. No follow-up call. Nothing. Silence. And honestly, that was the only disappointing part of the whole story. Because more than anything, Mike wished he could have seen it. The look on that scammer's face. The moment the smell hit. The instant his slick little con turned into the worst unboxing video never filmed. But even without that final scene, Mike got something just as valuable. The quiet, private satisfaction of knowing that somewhere out there, a con artist opened a box expecting a payday, and got a face full of consequences instead. There's a lesson in here that goes beyond diapers and cat litter. Scammers count on 2 things, greed and fear. They expect their targets to either get excited about easy money or get scared into compliance. What they don't expect is someone who stays calm, double checks the facts, and then turns the tables with a little creativity. Mike didn't lose $1. He didn't lose a night's sleep, either. Well, except for the one spent packing garbage. What he gained was proof that sometimes the best revenge doesn't require a courtroom or a confrontation. Sometimes it just requires 4 boxes and a really good reason. If this story had you cheering by the end, smash that like button and let us know in the comments. What's the most satisfying revenge you've ever pulled off or witnessed? We read every single one, and some of your stories might just end up in our next video. And if you want more real-life justice stories like this one, hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because trust me, This is far from the last time someone's about to get exactly what they deserve.